Anthony Albanese's Labor government is paying Australian women to have late-term abortions. Yes, you heard that right. Paid for by us, the taxpayer. Albanese and Labor are giving women money to incentivise a late-term abortion. Politicians won't talk about it. The media and hospitals cover it up, and midwives are left traumatised. And that's today on The Dr. Joe Show. So before we get into today's show, could I please ask that if you're new here, you do press the subscribe button. The more people that subscribe to this channel, the greater our movement grows and the bigger we can raise the awareness of what's really going on. So today's episode is truly shocking. I did not think that this was something that could be legal, that could happen. But what I'm finding time and time again in this space is that I'm constantly having my mind blown by what is legal and acceptable and funded in our country. You know, like just the fact that abortion is legal up until birth, the fact that babies can survive their abortion and be left to die without a legal right to care, all of that is shocking. But today I think what's going to shock you even more is the fact that we are actually funding late-term abortion in this country, and there's actually a dead baby bonus. That's just, I think, going to be mind-blowing for you, and I'm going to explain it step by step so that when you talk about it with people, you're going to be able to explain this to them. So the first time I heard this, I thought it can't be true. And the way that I heard about it was a hospital administrator got in contact with me, a South Australian hospital administrator, and she just said that she and other workers at the hospital, particularly midwives, were just really traumatised and shocked by the increasing number of late-term abortions involving healthy babies that they didn't think would ever happen. But then, you know, and I'll just pull up that data now. You can see 80% of late-term abortions in South Australia since they legalised abortion up to birth in 2021. These actually kill healthy babies with nothing wrong with them, and the mother's life is not at risk. And what she said to me, though, was not only are there all of these increasing social terminations, she called them, so abortions for social reasons, but she said we're actually being forced to sign off on forms, Centrelink forms, where these women can get the stillborn parenting payment. And she said that's adding a double level of trauma for us because we're being forced to participate in this system, and then we're signing off to give these women money. And then one of the midwives that reached out to talk to me about this off the record, and none of these guys can talk about it on the record because they would lose their jobs. They're not blowing the whistle because this is actually legal. And so there's no whistleblowing protection for them. But one of the women that reached out, one of the midwives, she said one of the late-term abortions that was done was so traumatic because the woman that wanted it literally said, I'm going to have this abortion and I'm going to use that money and I'm going to go to Bali. And, you know, that's a verbatim quote from this midwife who was in tears about the fact that she delivered this baby stillborn. And remember, in South Australia, when a baby gets delivered late in pregnancy, if the mother declines the funeral arrangements and doesn't want to do a funeral, and let's face it, why would most women going in for a late-term abortion who are killing a healthy baby provide for cremation or funeral, any kind of dignity around that baby's burial? They just wouldn't do that. And if they don't do that, then it's up to the midwife to literally throw this baby into the bin as medical waste. And again, you know, there's another video which I'll flick up that you can go check out of a midwife who shares how traumatic this is for them. So you might be wondering, how is the stillborn parenting payment available for a late-term abortion? Here I need to do just a quick recap of the method for a late-term abortion, and I'll pull up the policy from a New South Wales hospital, and it's the same process everywhere. So what occurs is the mother goes into the hospital, she goes under general anaesthetic, but a abortionist will inject the baby's heart in utero with poison, so it's either digoxin or potassium chloride. The baby then goes into cardiac arrest and dies in utero, so they die in the mother's womb. Now, they have to get that baby out some way, and the way they do it is they induce labour in the mother. So she takes pills that lie to her body and make her think that she's going into labour early. She then delivers that baby vaginally, but she's not delivering a live baby, she's delivering a stillborn child. So it's a forced birth of a stillborn baby. Now, because that baby is stillborn, this is what then makes her eligible to receive the $4,325. If we pull up the definition by Centrelink of how we define stillbirth for our payments, what they say is to be eligible for our payments, a stillbirth needs to meet our definition. A stillborn baby is one who had not breathed since delivery and had no heartbeat after birth. To be considered stillborn, a baby also has to have had a gestational period of at least 20 weeks or weighed at least 40 grams at their birth. So what this means is if you're in a late-term abortion, you are after 20 weeks. You haven't breathed because you've been killed in utero, and you have been delivered and there's no heartbeat. Now, a late-term abortion meets that definition, and there's no carve-out to say that the stillborn has to be natural rather than intentional. What this means is that the stillborn parenting payment is now effectively a dead baby bonus for late-term abortions. Now, what evidence do you need to provide to Centrelink to claim the stillborn parenting payment? Well, you either have to provide a birth certificate or a letter on hospital letterhead from the doctor or midwife who attended the baby's delivery and that verifies the full details of the birth mother and the child. So for a stillbirth, you don't even need to have registered the birth and got a birth certificate. You can actually just get the letter from the hospital. And this is what the hospital administrator told me. We're writing more and more of these letters and the midwives are signing them. And it is just adding such a level of trauma to them because they're powerless. They're powerless to stop it. These aren't the midwives who actually killed the baby. These babies are killed by an abortionist, but then these women are presenting at the hospital and the midwives are delivering this deliberately killed stillborn child, many of whom are healthy. In fact, 80% in South Australia are healthy. Now, there's no press release about this from the Department of Human Services. Centrelink doesn't want to talk about it. Politicians, when you ask them about it, run away. Check out this interview that I did with Mike Friedlander, who is a paediatrician from Western Sydney, who's a member of the Labor Party. And at the last election, I went up to him and asked him, what do you think about this?
The Albanese government gives $4,200 to women to incentivise them to have a late-term abortion. That's a payment that's intended for stillborns, for women who tragically lose their baby to a stillborn. Do you support that?
These very complex issues.
It's not that complex.
It is extremely complex.
Tell me why it's complex.
No, you're asking me these questions quite inappropriately. You just bring it on me straight like this and record it without my permission. I'm not happy with this. Would you please go away?
You're a public figure
and you're a member. Please go away.
You're a member of the...
Who do you
represent? Excuse me, we pay you. We pay you. Who do you think you are?
Who do you represent?
We are the people. The Albanese government gives a late-term abortion payment to women who have late-term abortions. Those babies get injected in the heart intentionally with poison. Many times these babies are healthy babies. 80% in South Australia are healthy babies.
You should not be asking me
We are the media. The people are the media. Does the media come and
clearly present your point of view and no one else's?
I'm asking you, do you think it's okay?
Would you please go away? I'm not prepared to answer any of your questions.
And that is the response that you get when you ask this question. Your government pays $4,200 to women to have late-term abortions. Isn't that incentivising it? What do you think about that? Instead of engaging, he just goes, these are very complex issues. And so I say to him, tell me why it's complex. And he says, no, I'm not going to answer your questions. You've come here with a camera and you're recording me without my permission. Isn't that what the media does? Like, the media doesn't give advance notice of questions when they turn up to a press conference or a polling booth or a stump speech that a politician's giving. They just turn up with their cameras and they ask questions. But Mike Friedlander, who, goes all around his electorate talking about how much he cares for children because he's a paediatrician. He is lockstep with the abortion industry and believes in abortion up to birth so much that he thinks it's acceptable to pay women $4,200 for a late-term abortion. And the crazy thing is, that video, which went to 55,000 on my social media, which is good for Instagram, and it went to, about another 50,000 more across the other platforms that I'm on. The crazy thing is it doesn't get picked up by the mainstream media because this does not suit their narrative. They don't want anybody to know about this either. they haven't blown the lid on this at all. In fact, the article that you see referenced in there, that was one article that I managed to get placed in the Advertiser through working with Catherine Birmingham, who's a journalist. Now, she actually called me up and she said, Jo, I'm going to be writing an article about how the stillborn parenting payment can be used for late-term abortions. I've seen on some of your content about it, and I think it's a good story. So she asked me for some further information. She spoke to other people, and that's how that article actually got placed on the front page of the Advertiser. Again, you would think that could be the catalyst for this then being blown up in the mainstream national media, but crickets, radio silence, because even though Catherine has had her eyes opened to the reality of late-term abortion and the fact that it's completely medically unnecessary and the fact that we're actually paying women to have these late-term abortions, the rest of the media is complicit and they just don't want people to know about it. But what's good is in Catherine's story, she actually goes to Centrelink, to the Department of Human Services, and she asks them, about this payment. And the Department of Human Services comes back and they don't deny that this is happening. So they don't say, actually, if you have a late-term abortion, you're not eligible for this payment. And that's another reason we know that it is happening, because they could have just come out and said, this is not true and it's not actually legal. You won't get the stillborn parenting payment if you have killed your baby via a late-term abortion. But they don't say that. They don't deny it because they can't. But what they do say to Catherine Birmingham is that the stillborn parenting payment is not incentivising late-term abortions. But that is not what the left-wing pro-abortion media establishment said when the Conservative Howard government wanted to give women a baby bonus if they had a baby. So if you remember back to 2004 when the Howard government introduced the baby bonus, it eventually became $5,000 as a cash payment that you could get if you had a baby, because as Peter Costello said, we've got a declining birth rate. We need women to have babies. It's in the best interest of our country. So the Howard government incentivised women to have them by giving them a $5,000 baby bonus. Now, the left-wing media establishment, who hated everything that Howard ever did, totally came down on him like a ton of bricks for introducing this policy that many women, indeed myself, I used it, many women accessed it and appreciated it. But that's not what the left-wing media said. They said that this payment, this baby bonus to have a live baby of $5,000 was actually being used because women were deliberately getting pregnant to get the money. And they told the stories about teen mums getting pregnant, being pregnant for 40 weeks, delivering their babies, and then, discarding their babies, placing them for adoption, but just doing it to get the $5,000. So that actually led to the payments being paid out fortnightly instead of a lump sum payment for teen mums. They also made reports about girls in Indigenous communities who had requested contraceptive devices be removed to allow them to become pregnant and claim the bonus, with concerns that the money was being spent on gambling, drugs and alcohol, not always by the mother, but often by family members who were coercing them. Reports were also made that young women had been abused by family members or sexually assaulted by boyfriends in order to claim the baby bonus. So the thing is, I don't want to get into that debate about whether that baby bonus was being used in that way or whether it was a good policy or not. But the fact of the matter is the left-wing media establishment was very clear on the fact that the Howard government's baby bonus was being rorted. And yet on this question about the late-term abortion dead baby bonus that the Albanese government gives, there's radio silence. And in fact, the Department of Social Services says, actually, this is not incentivising late-term abortions at all. But let's just think about that for a moment, because to get the baby bonus under the Howard government era, you had to get pregnant and be pregnant up until full term, so 37 to 40 weeks, carry that baby and then deliver that baby alive and either care for that baby and raise them yourselves or place them for adoption. That's how you got your baby bonus. Under the Albanese government's dead baby bonus, it's not only quicker, it's simpler and cheaper. So you actually, for 20 weeks, just have to be pregnant. And after 20 weeks, you deliver that baby stillborn. So it's half the amount of time and you get $4,300. So if it was incentivizing teenagers to get pregnant so they could get $5,000 if they stayed pregnant for 40 weeks, this is clearly incentivizing people to get pregnant and stay pregnant for 20 weeks so they can claim $4,300. Now, some people have said to me, indeed, even a good friend, when she saw that cover in the Advertiser, she said, Jo, you need to keep quiet about this because you're actually going to lead to more women doing this, rorting it, you're publicising it. It's going to lead to more babies being killed. Now, I accept that, and I accept that that's a risk of doing a video like this. But in my view, the types of people that would scam the system to do this kind of thing are pretty good at knowing where the scams are. And the mere fact that it is legal is something that we have to speak up about and have to change. Like the perspective of my friend, let's just keep quiet about it so it happens less. That's just throwing these babies under the bus and denying our own agency and power to change things. So today I'm launching an open letter to the Minister for Social Services. So there's 3 ministers who are responsible for the Department of Social Services. They're Tanya Plibersek, Katie Gallagher and Jed Kearney. Now all 3 are rusted on pro-abortion members of the Labor government. They're members of Emily's List. So I don't hold great store in their ability to do this willingly. But what we saw in New South Wales when we gutted the Radical Greens abortion bill is that people power makes a difference. So what I'm doing today is launching an open letter to the Albanese government and to Plibersek, Gallagher and Kearney, and it's from us, the people, and it's demanding that the Albanese government's dead baby bonus for late-term abortions be stopped immediately. It's got a pretty simple premise that I think 99% of Australians will get behind, and it's this, that Australian women should not be paid to kill their babies late in pregnancy and deliver them stillborn. We should be giving that money to supporting vulnerable women, to helping women in crisis pregnancies, to new mums who are struggling as new mums, but we should not be giving close to $5,000 to women to kill their babies after they are viable. So the only way we change this is with you and I. So I'm going to ask you guys to circulate this video, circulate this open letter, and to make sure that we get so many signatures that the Labor government has to stop this barbaric practice. I can't do it alone, but I can do it with all of you guys. And that's today on The Dr. Jo Show.